The 991.1 and 991.2 911s look almost identical, but they are fundamentally different cars. One offered the last naturally aspirated engine, while the other introduced turbocharging across the entire lineup. In this video, we are mostly looking at the changes to the Carrera and Carrera S as we review what Porsche changed between the 991.1 and 991.2. The shift was a mid-cycle refresh, but unlike most Porsche refreshes, this one changed a core part of the car, the engine. The 991.1 Carrera used naturally aspirated flat-six engines, a 3.4 liter in the base Carrera and a 3.8 liter in the Carrera S. In the 991.2, both of those engines were replaced with a single 3-liter twin-turbo flat-six, which showed up across the entire Carrera lineup. With the engine change, power increased slightly. The base Carrera increased to 370 horsepower, and the Carrera S increased to 420 horsepower. That means both are higher by 20 horsepower than the engines in the 991.1 versions. But torque is where the biggest change happened. The 991.2 Carrera S produces 368 pound-feet of torque, which is about a 44 pound-foot increase over the 991.1 Carrera S. More importantly, that torque comes in at just 1,700 RPM and stays flat through 5,000 RPM, which changes how the engine delivers performance. In the 991.1, you need to rev the engine high to access peak power. That's because the 991.1 responds to higher RPM driving, and most of the excitement is in the top end. In the 991.2, the engine makes strong torque early, so you don't need to chase redline. Drivers find they are often faster if they shift earlier and stay in the mid-range. All that to say, the driving experience itself changed. The 991.1 is more raw, and the 991.2 is more technical, but still sounds great. The 991.1 has a sharper, more traditional, naturally aspirated flat-six sound, especially as it approaches redline. The 991.2 is more muted and mechanical, but with new sounds from the turbos. It still revs to around 7,500 RPM, but the character is less about the top end and more about usable performance throughout the range. Of course, the performance numbers reflect those differences in character. With PDK and Sport Chrono, the 991.2 Carrera S does 0 to 60 in about 3.7 seconds, roughly 2/10 quicker than the 991.1 at 3.9 seconds. Top speed also increases slightly in the 991.2, around 191 miles per hour. At the same time, Porsche improved efficiency, reducing fuel consumption by about 10%. Now, let's look at the chassis. In the 991.2, PASM, Porsche Active Suspension Management, was standard on all Carrera models for the first time. In the 991.1, it was only standard on the Carrera S, 4S, and GTS. Porsche also revised the dampers by widening the range between comfort and sport settings. Rear axle steering became available on the Carrera models for the first time with the 991.2. Previously, it was limited to higher-end cars like the Turbo and GT3. At low speeds, the rear axle steering improves maneuverability by shortening the wheelbase. At high speeds, it increases stability. Now, let's look at the updates to the driver's experience. With the Sport Chrono package, the 991.2 adds a steering wheel-mounted mode dial, which Porsche derived from the 918 Spider. The dial provides quick access to normal, Sport, Sport Plus, and individual modes. It also introduces the Sport Response button. When it is activated, the drivetrain is optimized for maximum performance for about 20 seconds by selecting the ideal gear and sharpening throttle response. Besides the Sport Chrono changes, the biggest interior update is the infotainment system. The 991.2 introduced a new Porsche communication management system with a 7-inch touchscreen, improved responsiveness, and support for Apple CarPlay, Wi-Fi, and real-time traffic information. After the engine, the look is probably the most discussed topic. The changes are subtle but present. The 991.2 received new front and rear bumpers, updated air intakes for the turbo system, and revised lighting. The headlights include 4-point daytime running lights, and the rear lights have a more three-dimensional design. At the back, you can also see intercooler air intakes that are lower and wider. One of the easiest ways to determine whether the car is a 991.1 or 991.2 is to look at the rear. On the 991.2, the engine slats are more vertical. Overall, the difference between these two cars comes down to character. The 991.1 is the last naturally aspirated Carrera. It emphasizes high revving performance and driver engagement. The 991.2 moves toward broader abilities. It has more torque, faster real-world performance, improved efficiency, and updated technology. Both are clearly 911s, but they deliver performance in different ways. Thank you for watching.